Hi, it's Mark here from Mark's Reviews and Tutorials, and I've got another video here for the Pool's Demystified playlist. I've got a link to some of the different videos that I've got to do with swimming pools. Right now I'm going to show you how to change out the multi-port valve gasket. This is the valve off the top of a filter, most commonly a sand filter. I've got another video that explains how to use the valve, and have a look just at the link I'm going to put up there. That shows how to use the valve. This one though, I'm going to show you how to pull it apart and actually how to change the spider gasket on the inside. This is a job that not even a lot of servicemen are doing anymore, but a lot of the times it absolutely is worthwhile, because to replace these valves can be extremely expensive. So the top of the valve does actually come off. This is the top part here, and it splits around here. There's just a series of stainless steel bolts all the way around the top. We just need to undo all of those. They have, see here, a little stainless steel nut underneath, so you've got to hold those. If you're trying to get this undone and it's just spinning, you need to hold that. Sometimes you can jam a screwdriver in or get the right size spanner to hold it so that you get the nuts off, and then they just lift up and come out like that. So then this is free to come up, and normally it's not too hard to get them to come out, and this is what you end up with. The handle assembly comes up from the top, and then the base plate with the spring. And I will show you, there's up in here, the top of this stem here, there's a couple of O-rings that we're going to service as well. So we need to press this pin out, and it only goes one direction. So sometimes you'll see there's a bit of knurling on it. It's on this side this time around, and sometimes they're a little bit larger. Sometimes it'll go either way, but this one needs to come out that way. So we'll just knock that pin out and be able to access those O-rings and lube them. We'll get all the dirt out. There's also a little nylon washer down underneath there. We'll see it when it all comes to pieces. We've got to make sure that's in good condition as well, but just getting all the dirt and grit out so that it operates properly. Very commonly, these get very, very stiff just because of the dirt and grit that rains into the top and gets in the top there. It is actually a good idea, if yours is a little bit stiff, just get a fast hose, like with a fair bit of pressure, and just shoot it round just to see what dirt and grit. You won't do any damage to the O-rings or the workings, but just get as much dirt and muck out from in there as you can. So anyway, onto the valve. We'll pull that apart. This guy here though, that's just if it's tight you can fix that. But this here has a sealing face where it actually seals down onto a gasket here. And this gasket underneath has been destroyed. Now the customer's been given some bad advice, and he's actually been adding granular chlorine direct into his skimmer box, and the result is that it's destroyed all of the O-rings on his pool. So I'm having to replace the O-rings on the pump, and also the O-ring here inside the multi-port valve. If you have a look inside, let's have a look at the new O-ring here. Let's get it out, because this is what it's supposed to look like. Here is the new O-ring. See, it has that raised edge there through the middle and right the way around. That's the sealing face. This is the part that glues down into the slot, the big square. But that raised edge is actually what it seals on. That's a brand new gasket, how it's supposed to look. This is the existing gasket in here. You see, no raised edge, and there's also a bit of sand and debris because the rubber's gone all soft. Is actually using the strongest form of granular chlorine there is. That's a trichlor isocyanurate, and it's just absolutely turned these gaskets to pulp, including the ones on his pump. So this gasket here is definitely going to leak. If you've got water leaking down your backwash valve and during normal operation, that will be what's causing it, is this gasket here. So we're going to get that out. Now, getting this out, it is just a matter of scraping it out. Sometimes you'll find it's very, very simple to get it out. It's just getting under there with a screwdriver and just leaving it out. Of course, you've got to be careful not to damage the plastic here. And sometimes, if it's had a lot of glue put on it, or a super glue or something like that, it takes a lot more time. You've got to cut it and get it all out. But you do have to be fussy getting all of the old gasket out, because if it's lumpy and not smooth when you put your new gasket in, again, it won't seal. So this is not one for a rush job. This is one for taking a little bit of time and getting the old gasket out and then gluing the new one into place. As I said, a lot of servicemen don't muck with that anymore, but for some reason I still do. So here we go. We'll start the procedure of getting that out, and then we will glue the new one in. Okay, let's see if I can hold this camera and hold this all at the same time. So yeah, it's an encouraging sign. It's starting to lift up straight away. We'll just work our way along here. And then sliding the screwdriver along what we want. Hopefully, here we go. Once we get it started, hopefully the whole thing will keep on coming and come out. So working our way into the middle. That's very encouraging how it's come out. It's when you get little bits of rubber left everywhere that it's not too much fun. It's going to break. That'll get it started at least. Work our way around there. You can just slide along each side of the gasket. With the screwdriver, if it'll do it. If it won't, yeah, look at that. There's just chunks of that rubber coming off. In order to get that gasket out. That's just a matter of working with it. You know, I've got chlorine damaged plastic here, so it is quite brittle. I'm going to have to be pretty careful. Okay, it's starting to come out. The gasket is holding together enough to come out, which is encouraging. There we go. Now she's all starting to come out. So I'll just keep on working around until I get that out, and then we will get in here and just get all of those scraped out and clean and dry. If you're going to do a successful gluing job, you want to get it dry as well. Having this one off the pull is a huge advantage in that it's nice and dry. There we go, just trying to get that last little bit out. Really could do with a third hand when you try and hold the camera. There we go. That's out in all of its wonderfulness. And that's been very kind to me in that there's not much debris left in there at all. Nothing that won't come out nice and simple. Don't, when you've got a dry system like this, don't wet it, because you'll have to wait for the water to dry before you glue it if you do that. But we can just scrape all of that out and then glue the new one in. So the next step is just scraping all of this out with a screwdriver, particularly getting the corner of the screwdriver into the corner there to get the rubber. And you see as we bang it out, there's all of these little bits of rubber and sand and muck coming out. And that's what we need to get out so that when the new gasket sits in, it sits down nice and flat and flush and in place. So take some time on this, rub that edge of the screwdriver right around the edge in there to get all of that rubber out, and around the side and up here. That white line there, you can see that's actually where there's been sand and grit down between the side of the actuator plate. It fell down before it's here. So you can see the corresponding rub mark there around that, where there's been sand and grit in there, and that's been rubbing around the side. Not a lot you can do about that, but again, just taking it out. If you've got sand in your valve, you can sort of feel it gritty. You can just undo the bolts around the top, right around here, lift the top off, and then just give it again, fast hose, give it a good pressure clean inside, and just get as much sand and muck out. Clean off this as well. You don't have to worry about pulling anything apart and servicing anything, but you can still get the sand out in that way. So then next, before we get the glue out, is a test fit. We'll just sit that down and make sure that it's going to go into the slots and that it is exactly the right size, that the center hole here is the right size, the center hole around the outside there is the right size, that it fits. It's going to sit down and check that it's going to go down nice and flat. Press it right in all the way around, and when you're happy, then we can glue it in. Now, I do not recommend you just use silicone. I do recommend that you use some glue, because silicone, if these, particularly the arm bits here, they're under pressure as that top plate drags around, particularly when you're using, if you don't press the handle fully down and turn it, then that top plate can drag, and that can tend to pull these out and stretch them, again, cause it to leak. So particularly making sure there's glue on the middle of those center spokes, and also the middle of the holes around the outside. You don't have to glue the whole thing in, it just makes it a nightmare to get it out, but just glue in strategic places around the center, around the center points of these, so they stayed glued. I've seen these gaskets put in here without glue that have successfully worked for years without any glue at all. Wouldn't recommend that. Don't recommend silicone, it's not strong enough, but I do recommend a super glue, or I've even seen it done with araldite. That's a two-part epoxy type glue, so something, but don't do the whole thing so it makes it impossible to get out. You can just, I won't say it again, just glue those main spots and then it'll hold in place. Okay, so the glue I'm using today is a super glue gel. As I said, I'm just going to put a blob in the middle of each one of these to hold it in place. Forgive my camera work. This is a customer's filter. I've got to get this right. I'm trying to stay off the sides again, because that from the other side of it, when you take this out, that's when it's really, really difficult. Okay, and now I'm just going to glue some spots around the side, and then I'm going to put that into place. Okay, so glue is in place, and then we're going to lower the gasket in place. Line that up, just poke it around. Again, I said if you're going to use super glue, and I have had to pull these out that I've put in myself with super glue, and super glue is fine for getting it out again. You can just scrape it out with your screwdriver, and it does hold the gasket nicely in place. So very important to get that down all the way around. And at this point I would, what have I done with the plate here? I would get that, because it is actually the best for holding it all down firm. Put that back in place and press down, and that will press down on the gasket as well, making sure that it's all flat. So just give it a visual check, and that is looking really good. So that is glued and in place, and now this, we're going to service the multi-port valve.